With an urgent item on lawmakers' to-do list, lawmakers must pass a funding bill by Friday night in order to avoid another government shutdown. And at this moment, the conventional wisdom is that a shutdown is unavoidable. And that is because 7 Senate Democrats will be needed to get the 60 votes required. And in response to the shooting death of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says his party will not support the part of the bill which includes funding for Homeland Security. So joining us now is Mitchell Miller, Capitol Hill reporter with our news partner WTOP. Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure thing.
And tell us a little bit what you're hearing right now about where things stand with this.
Well, I wish I could tell you something different, that we were more optimistic about this. Ironically, we headed into this week before last weekend thinking that this would actually be approved and the shutdown would be avoided. But obviously, everything that you just mentioned in connection with what happened in Minneapolis totally turned things around, and Senate Democrats are dug in right now. They are not going to go along with this 6 appropriation bill package. Republicans, meanwhile, still want to try to move it forward. Really, the reason why this is all happening is because the Democrats say if you pull this out, you can still get the whole thing passed except for the Department of Homeland Security, and they could still keep the government funded. But the Republicans don't want to do that because if they alter it, it has to go back to the House. And there is a lot of concern about whether or not DHS funding could again be approved by the House. So right now we're kind of in a stalemate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune does say that there are some talks going forward in connection with Democrats, but essentially he says it's really going to be between the White House and Democrats.
Yeah, you kind of walked through just now the options for this moving forward, what could happen, because you mentioned there are 6 components here. Talk to us about the potential impact to our area for workers. You know, there are several other large agencies like TSA that could be impacted in this. Tell us why and how this might impact our local workers.
Right. Well, so even though it's called a partial government shutdown, keep in mind that this is between 75 to 80% of the funding for the federal government. So yes, we are talking about TSA, we are talking about FEMA, we are talking about transportation workers, and a lot of people really affected by defense spending. That's the biggest component of this. And what this could mean is we may have a shutdown perhaps for a few days if they can work out a deal, or it could go a lot longer. I don't think we're going to be looking at anything like the longest government shutdown ever, which of course happened last year, 43 days. I think they will be able to work something out, but certainly it's going to have a huge impact here in the Washington area on federal workers who are still reeling, frankly, from what happened last year.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, how might this compare if we do have a shutdown here come Friday? Mitchell, what comes next? How long could we anticipate this playing out? What are we looking at in that scenario?
Well, the one thing that both Democrats and Republicans do have in common right now is they really don't want an extended shutdown. There is an area of agreement here that reforms need to be made in connection with ICE and the Border Patrol. You've seen it with Republican senators who have spoken out about what's happened. There is obviously a lot of concern about the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, and what her future is. But I think what they're trying to do is basically, as they usually do, find an off-ramp. What can they do that both sides can agree to without upsetting everything? And I think they're going to try to find some kind of common ground, possibly with the White House, as I noted, that they could get around some of the issues related to this big 6 package appropriations and see if they can find another way to address everyone's concerns while still moving things forward and perhaps only have a shutdown of a few days.
All right, so that is one possible way this could go. WTOP Capitol Hill reporter Mitchell Miller, thank you so much for providing your insight, your informative insight for us here on WJLA 24/7.
You bet.